Hmm. And you touched on another thing that I was curious about, but so are you completely against the idea of like kicking people from the platoon, or do
Absolutely
you?
not. When
So
you
you,
have a
but
full platoon, then kicking people who are on the other side of the continent, that's perfectly fine in doing that. You know, as long as you give them a warning,
you just
always,
want to give them
always,
plenty of
always give them a
warning.
warning. Yep.
Okay.
Just don't do stupid shit like that where you pull 5 minutes of everyone's time just to make a qualifier for the people who are going to be in the platoon, where you just kick everyone that don't follow your orders to an exact T on some stupid shit. People want to be attacking and defending bases. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to kick people who aren't participating during those order calls. You don't have to make a separate order call just to kick people or just to see who's actually listening and who's not. And plus, a lot of people have voice communications turned off because they don't like listening to people. Yeah, sometimes that shit happens. I mean, it's just impossible for a platoon leader to just see immediately when someone was joining in the platoon. If people are like watching it like crazy, though, it's a little annoying. So you just want to make sure you let everyone know in very long segments when you're going to be kicking people. Like I'll say I'll kick somebody in 2 minutes, and then I'll wait like 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, plus, and I'll start kicking people, and then I won't say anything for the next like 10, 15 minutes at most, or at least. But anyway, about the next point in the commander's guide, the battle plan explanation. This is very important. So, if I look at the map right now, I see that the NC Arsenal just got dicked on. Now, where do you guys think that they're going to go next? I have a slight feeling that they're going to go on to the Augur. Now, if we were to redeploy to the Augur, you should probably tell your platoon why you're redeploying over there and what you're trying to face. You're probably going to face a huge armor column coming over from Alpha Squad Waypoint. So if you're going to pull tanks, pull them around Bravo Squad Waypoint in order to kind of snipe them from trying to snipe them before they get to Platoon Waypoint, which is the best Sunder spawn at the Augur. Now, it's just plans like that that can inform your platoon members instead of just ordering them to go around anywhere randomly. That'll give you the best results, and that's what that point's about. Just providing the most information that you can so that the people who are new to the game can really be the best that they can be at the moment. Let's see.
Hi, speaking of new players, I have two questions about the map to read, especially for new players, especially if they want to be platoon leaders. So the main point for platoon leader is to understand how this setting strategy is working. So my question is, for new players, how can they read if they want to start the alert? What have they to do to get the Empire Strength to 100 points? I know you can see them if you click on your on the map on your logo.
The Empire Strength to 100?
Yes.
So, if you want to rush an alert like I do typically on a lot of my platoons, there is specific ways to do this on every single map. So, on Amrish with the Western Warp Gate, you start off with the Bastion, which is a really good focal point for the middle of the map. Now, having access to the Bastion allows you to cap Lift Core Central and Rock Slide in this case. Let's say the NC start off with the Ascent, which I think they usually do. So if you go to Alpha to Bravo Waypoint, you could cut off the Ascent and take it over at Platoon Waypoint. That'll give you 25 victory points or Empire Strength. And from there, you have access to Heyoka Tech Plant and Wokuk Amp Station and Tumas Tech Plant. So what you need, I think, I don't have the exact calculations with me right now, but as long as you have the Ascent, Heyoka Tech Plant, and maybe work towards Wokuk or Tumas, you'll have a pretty decent chance of starting the alert.
Can we do another document for and set it up in the Discord for the new player to understand the map and how that is working a bit? It's not only about the Empire's Trench to get the also the alert too, and this is the second part of the question. So how to get to know, how do you know to get some basis for the percent for your conqueror and the continent. So I know that's a little different. Not only base have the same
Platoon on
percent.
Irish, if you're there, we could use some help with the auger.
It's a problem. Not every base have like 3% of the whole continent. I know bigger places have a larger number for capturing or controlling, so in percent. So that's a little interesting for new players. So they might think, okay, let's capture a lot of little bases. So we get the huge continent, but if the NC or TR taking huge places like tech plants or amp stations or whatever, they don't get the smaller percent. They get at least 10 or 15%, or I don't know the numbers. So that would be very interesting.
So for the difficulty and the percentage of bases in regards to just overall territory control, there are certain bases where you can hold those particular points like amp stations or like tech plants. Now, of course, what you're asking, the first part of it was the territory control percentages between those bases. I'm pretty sure that's what you were trying to go for. So, Heyoka Tech Plant, Wokuk Amp Station, Biolab, anything like that is going to be 2%, I believe, for capping any one of these significant bases. I think 3-point bases are still 1% regardless. Someone might have to check me on that. But I think regardless of how big the base is, if it doesn't have a name you could see from the map screen, like Heyoka Tech Plant is a name that you could see from the map without hovering over it, that's going to be about 2% versus regular base, which is going to be 1%. So I think a really important distinction that you can make between any of these bases is the difficulty of actually going and taking some of these bases, and that just works out with experience. A base like Lithcor Fortress, especially over on the north side of Amrish, is a very, very, very big pain in the ass to take because of the advantageous spawns the defenders have. Comparing this to some base like North Grove Post, it's going to be extremely easy for the attackers to take the point. And that just depends on where the 8-point is and where you have to go as a defender to actually get to the 8-point, how far you have to run versus where can they put spawns down and really stop your advance or really stay on 8-point for the time being. Let me see. There's another base I can highlight. Oh, I mean, all the amp stations, pretty much. All the 1-point amp stations, you're going to want to keep. You're going to want to hold on to those for dear life. It's fine if you have like a bunch of 3-point bases like West Pass Watchtower, amp stations, or those tech plants. Sometimes those are really, really hard for platoons of TR and NC to get past, and it's a lot better for you to hold on to those bases versus like some certain 1-point bases like Cobalt Communications, Genodyne Physics, just to give you an example. A lot of platoon leading in general that I don't think I say on my document is it's really up to a lot of just base gameplay, like what bases should you attack versus what you should defend. That comes a lot with experience. So in, like, let's say this situation here, we're getting hellzerged by the NC. They're gonna go for, or from the Augur to Ignam Garrison. There's gonna be a pretty big problem for us. In this case, I would say the best option we could have is pulling an armor column from Ignam Motor Pool and trying to wipe out a lot of their armor coming from the Augur. Or we could go to a TR base and hopefully just quell the Zerg from one of those fronts. That would probably be the best option in this case, but it's going to be a tough time winning this alert in your situation, in a PL situation. All you got to do is just keep on these bases and try to defend as best as you can. Base. Let me see what I said. In addition to the document that I posted. So another point I'm going to bring up is playing from the enemy's point of view. That is a big one. It's more advanced. It'll take a lot longer to get good at. But if you identify that the team that you're playing against is going to be very, very organized, almost as organized as you, then you can kind of play this game like a RTS, where you know where they might drop on. So what are you going to do to get a step ahead of them and maybe beat them at their own game a little bit? This is where a lot of the advanced shit comes in, where let's say a NC platoon is going to armor Zerg to a next base or an adjacent base. If they're going to Zerg a base like, let's say, Scarfield Reliquary, it might be better to wait for a base like Cobalt Geological to open up. Let's say you know they're going to take Shrouded Skyway and they're going to go to Genodyne Physics Lab here on Amrish on the west side. So your options for holding back this TR Zerg could be to go to Cobalt Geological and then go back and set up spawns on Scarfield Reliquary to kind of make that 96 plus pull back a little bit and kind of really just fuck up their advance. That'll really, really slow down a public platoon. And that would be really, really good for you to use that to your advantage. Just stuff like that just comes with experience and a little creativity, I want to say. Got to be a little bit creative to get some of these plans working. But as you just play more and more, especially platoon lead more and more, you'll realize that some of this shit can work. And you'll realize how some of this stuff works. You'll be very capable over time of actually running stuff like this, where you'll know when to pull armor versus when to gal drop, or when to just foot Zerg or armor Zerg a base, and when to actually go to a different front in order to spread your population out more, for instance. A lot of this comes with experience, and it's important that you guys just make the first step into actually leading public platoons. I mean, you're in the best faction, in the best outfit to do this. There's no other faction that can lead like the Vanu. There's no better platoon lead opportunities in SKL, or than in SKL.
And would you recommend platoon leading, even if you're not like a student of like how the the ratios work and the map works and stuff like that?
Yeah, because if you have, like any other game in the world, if you have a willingness to improve on yourself and your game tactics and your game knowledge, you'll get this shit pretty quick, no matter who you are. It's not too complicated, and it's not like rocket science here. It may take a smart person to really just completely outplay an opponent from here or there, but you don't have to be a genius to lead a public platoon. This is an outfit wars. I'll be playing for about sorry, go ahead. I saw you talking.
I was gonna say that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
one of the things that always kind of like was a stopgap for me, because like I can read the map fairly well, but like I'm new enough to where I don't completely understand the differences between all the biolabs and the tech plants and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Where the
and that's
cutoffs are and things like that.
that's just a result of not having game knowledge. In like any game, you probably played a few now that aren't planet side. You just, the more you play, the more you understand about where shit is on the map and what you have to do on the map, stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't matter what game you're playing, like League of Legends, like Dota, some
Right.
game like that. It's just based on the time you put in, and you'll eventually learn like all the champions or all the map entirely. I mean, it's easy for me to see all this shit going down because I have about 1,200 hours just logged in Steam on this game over like 6 years. And it's going to be easy for me, but definitely I understand as a new player, I was once in your position, and I made the decision one day to go down, take a deep look at what the fuck was going on here in this game. And I just made myself improve over time. I made sure that every base that I went to, I remembered the layout a little bit. You don't have to fucking photocopy it into your brain, but just see where those sunders were, where we gal dropped on, where those A, B, and C points were. You don't have to have a photogenic or whatever the fuck it's called, photo memory.
Photographic.
Yeah, photographic memory. But it does help to just remember a general aspect of most of the bases that you go and attack and defend. That'll help you out when you're starting. Because, when you're leading a public platoon, you're leading people like you. And your job is to guide the people that are like you, or that were once like you, where those sunder placements are. They don't know where to gal drop. They don't know what to do when they get there. Your job is to guide them in sort of like mold their gameplay so that they acquire good habits even when they're not leading or they're not following in your platoon. That'll help a lot of the other platoon leaders as a whole. Let me see what else I could talk about in the PDF alone. A quick point about alerts. Alerts are frequent now. It's not life or death. It's definitely not. It used to be more intense than it was now because we used to not have as many alerts as we do now. But it is fun playing more competitive. I would say, if anything else, playing in an alert will allow you to have a more competitive attitude that kind of flows with your platoon as well, because they want to win the cert reward, that ISO reward. But when you're not in an alert, I think it's better to definitely just chill down a little bit and don't lead your platoon on a death grip. In an alert, it's kind of the same way, but you can get a little bit more competitive, if you know what I mean. It goes along with that attitude thing I said earlier, is what I'm trying to say. Don't have your platoon on a death grip, because after all, you're leading a public platoon, and a lot of these players just want to play the damn game. They don't want to do your stupid shit or whatever they want you to, or whatever you're trying to do. It's better to play the game how you know it as like a newbie, so that other newbies can kind of follow along easier. I would restrict it to gal drops, armor pulls, and just general infantry shit. You know, because that's what we do here at SKL. We don't typically have a moment where I say, everyone deploy to platoon waypoint, pull galaxies, and the squad leads are going to pull galaxies. Squad members are going to spawn inside those galaxies. Now, if you played in an SKL platoon for more than 20 minutes, you'll realize that that shit never works, right? I could tell everyone to do this crazy shit real quick, and it's going to take a little bit of game knowledge to actually pull it off. But because it's going to take a little bit of game knowledge, it'll never work in a public platoon. So it's better to say, okay, guys, redeploy to platoon waypoint on the warp gate. We're going to be pulling galaxies. Now, hopefully, your squad leads or the people in your squad realize that you're going to be pulling a galaxy as well, and you'll get at least 4 pretty much every time. You wait for about like 2 minutes for everyone to get into the galaxies, and you go somewhere. That's easy. That's simple. That's going to happen almost. What you don't want to do is say, okay, everyone redeploy at the warp gate, go to Bravo Squad waypoint, and then wait for me to head out. That's going to be a little bit more advanced, and it's going to take a lot of time to do. I hope you get what I'm trying to say. With a lot of these advanced tactics versus the basics. And
I'm following you pretty well so far.
Yep. I think the commander's guide is going to help you out a bunch with just new PLing. And if you're going to take anything away from all of this, it's that starting platoon leading is the hardest part. Yeah, exactly. You can remind people to pull vehicles, but again, people are only going to pull vehicles if they want to already.
Well, hey, they're slubber.
If you guys want to go into slubbers, I will probably disband this one because I've got a little bit of homework to do. I hope you guys learned a lot from just me talking. Do any of you have a lot of questions or any questions at all for before I just disband this? I hope it was helpful for you guys. Yeah. I hope you guys can learn more of the practical side from Slubber. I think he does. I don't think he does all this talking that I do. He might do it more practical. I haven't been in his platoon leading training. But I hope you guys learn a little bit more of the practical side of it, of what he's trying to do if he's leading. Oh yeah, that's a more general aspect of when you're pulling shit or when you're starting out into the game. There are a few certs that you should have versus the ones that you shouldn't have, versus the ones that are kind of less priority is certing into those zooms and shit like that. The one certs, the free certs, the deploy shield kind of certs that are really, really powerful. But I'm gonna break off. I'm gonna disband. I hope you guys learn a
Thanks.
little bit more in Slubbers. I'm glad you guys are interested in doing Vanu's work here, because that's for me, that's what makes this game possible. That's why I come back every day. Not because it's an FPS, but because people play it like a MMO. All right, peace out.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so let me go ahead and reiterate what I just said. This is welcome to Platoon Leadership Train. We're going to be going around for the first little bit here to different bases on the map, and I'm going to discuss the basic strategies on how to attack and defend them. This course isn't going to be going over any major tactics or anything deep strategy wise. This is just for you to be able to get off the ground and be able to platoon lead successfully in public platoons. After this initial lecture portion, we're going to then move on to practical training in an actual platoon, where I'll hand it down one by one to the next person in the line, so that way you'll be able to get some platoon leading in with somebody to be able to help you guide you through experience. You will need a mic for this, so if you want to actually participate in the practical portion of this. So, Grothold, do you have a mic?
Yeah.
Okay. Hyperlight, do you have your mic?
Assuming it's working, yes.
Prozan, do you have a mic?
Yes.
Jack Simmons, do you have your mic?
Yeah.
Pepe, do you have your mic?
I hope so.
Cool. Everybody here has their mics minus Hyperlight. He said that he doesn't have it right now, so hopefully he'll have it by the time that happens. Alright, so we're going to be going around to a few bases. I specifically chose Endar, and thankfully luck was on my side. We have Zerv and Amp for a nice little introduction on 3-point amp stations. But first, we'll be heading off to Tariq Tech Plant. Just to let you guys know, this is still the second time. Things might not be perfect throughout the run because of still trying to work out all the kinks in this course here. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a Galaxy for us to use. And we'll be on our way. Alright, let's get going. So, tech plants. I'm sure that everybody's fought in them at least once in this squad. So, how you usually take them varies depending on the situation, but generally, the best way is to try and get a router snuck in there before the initial assault. If you can't get a router base set up from the platoon, then the second best thing is to get some beacons and whatnot on the edge. I'll go ahead and mark that out whenever we get there and drop down onto the balcony below. You do not need to worry about a single one of the generators there. All the generators are completely inconsequential. The Generators are not needed to be destroyed because the Sunderers can be used to allow troops in and out of the tech plants. You can go ahead and get out the galaxy for now. So, when placing beacons, if you don't have the ability to use a router, you'll want to place them either on the legs or just on the surface up here. People can then jump down along the leg, and then once they get to this point, they can jump down onto the balcony below. If you don't fuck it up like I did.
I mean, at least you'll hit the ground with a satisfying splat.
If you've got all that route, you can make it down to the bottom without dying. And then from the balcony, which is the most important point in the entire tech plant. From the balcony, you'll be able to watch over the entire inside of the tech plant. So you'll want to try and get everybody to this point when directing your platoon before trying to get to the point. With this advantage, you'll be able to shoot down, clear off the enemies, and then send in a couple of guys to sit on the point, while the remainder sit up here and shoot down at the enemies. One things that you should be aware of is enemies will try to rush up from the two launch pads on either side, right close up to here, or go up the staircases on the far side over there. If you can get a router, well, generally people will know how to place it if they have router bases, but they'll be placed back here and you'll usually want to baby gate them. Enemies can also come in from the rear, same way, either through jump jetting and coming up to assault this back area, so you'll also have to have some people watching that. Defending is the same thing. You'll want to try to clear out this balcony area before taking back the points. Once you cleared it out, then you can do the same thing, clear off the points and then take the points. Where you'll generally see the enemy rushing from is down here. There's a tube. From this tube, they'll usually group up at the end before coming up, and then all launch up from there, run up to the jump pad, and rush up into the balcony from the stairs there. If they manage to do that, then you will likely lose the point. Some people tend to park Sunderers on top of this because it blocks entrance into here and they first have to blow it up. It doesn't delay them for long, but it will also give you a nice warning if enemies are about to rush through there. Alright. The SCU. Every one of these large bases has an SCU. It opens up once you get the capture points to halfway. I'd recommend not sending anybody to it unless you gain no resistance. Then send a few people to the SCU to take it down and guarantee the capture. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Its location to the enemy spawn point is so close that you usually get pushed off of it before get it destroyed. Alright. So that's pretty much it for the tech plants. Does anybody have any questions about capturing or defending?
I remember on the Esmir tech plant, there's this little trick about hopping over the vehicle shields over in the middle area. Is that a trick for all the tech plants or just that Esmir one?
All the tech plants are copy and paste. They're all the same.
So that little vaulting trick over the vehicle shield works on this one too.
Generally though, you can just park a Sunderer right onto the shields and people can go in and out. It's the same thing as what we'll be using for the amp stations.
I think it's still a useful skill to have.
If there's a bunch of lights assaults, then sure, that'll work. But usually, if you're
No, you can do it with any
attacking,
class.
Yep.
Huh? What you talking about?
It's over
mean,
here.
Question: does
Yeah,
the
but how do you get over the vehicle shield? As any? Oh, from this little leg. Never thought of that.
You just have to have a little parkour skill.
Okay,
Or cat like 5.
I'm gonna write that down as notes later. Thank you for bringing that up. I did not actually know about that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to shoot you. I forgot.
Okay, any more questions?
Yes, short question about the SCU. Does it only cut off the spawn
It cuts off the
probability
spawn.
for the enemy, or is there something else that the SCU does on the big bases?
The SCU will disable their spawn rooms, and that's it. It'll also disable the shields into the spawn rooms, so you can go in there and clean it out. But that's all it will do.
Okay.
Any more, or is that it?
I was actually going to ask about
Okay.
the SCU too, but he already did that. So
Okay, let's head back up. Just go ahead and use the teleporters, it'll be quicker. Comms tested.
3 of us just straight up
Oh, shit.
walked off the ledge.
Yeah, forgot I wasn't the lightest.
Oh,
Yeah, I
no,
kinda
never mind,
jumped
that's
off
like
a little.
Spawn in the galaxy.
my KD.
Tip, you could just place down something like a beacon. It'll give you just that little bit of extra height to jump up it. Or Spitfire turret. That works too. Let's load up in the gal. Alright, so the next area that we're going to be going to is the amp station. This one is a 3-point amp station, but I'll also discuss single point amp station tactics there too, since the inside layout isn't changed. Alright, that's everybody. So, amp stations come in 2 different flavors. The extremely rare flavor of the 3-point amp stations, and the normal single-point amp station. There are also there's also a second type of single-point amp station. But I'll discuss that whenever I can. I'll try to get us over to the special single points that's on Endar here, if I can. Alright, so these amp stations have a very specific way that you go about attacking them. So, for the 3-point amp stations, you got points all around the amp station. I believe there's only one on here on Endar, and there's one also on Amrish. So you got A, B, and C. Each of those points will unlock a spawn point for you to spawn at. For C and B, it'll be a spawn point here, right here, and a spawn point right here. For A, it'll be a spawn point underneath the ground, around here. With entrances on either side, right there. You can see there's a little tunnel that pokes up. These stations do not have an SCU, since you gain hard points just from capturing points here. One side note about these points is that they tend to take a little bit longer to capture. than other points at other bases because of the whole spawn mechanic tied to them. For capturing these, you generally want to go for whatever points are closest to the lattice line that you're coming from. So, for this, say the TR took it from Zervin Pump, and we only had Zervin Storage and Network Hub, you'd want to set up Sunders around here, there, and there. And if you can, try to get one over on this side for C point, just to facilitate an extra spawning. But as soon as you get those points, like I said, you'll gain spawn points to spawn from and deprive the enemy from spawning from them themselves. The enemy can only come out through the main building, where the SCU would normally be located, through the big door in the center, like normal, or through 2 gates along the side here. Let's just go ahead and get out of here. This for now. I'll just spawn another one. So let's just go ahead in here. You'll see that there are several locations to exit from the SCU. These are the locations where if you're attacking, the enemy can come from, or if you're defending, that you can leave from. Take note that most likely enemies, if you're defending, will post up on the outside of these shields and just farm from there. That's also how most people will do it when attacking. So the best option is to go up through the top and try to jump around through the top of the amp station to get to the different points, or to rush out through the main door in the center. The generators, while useful for you to be able to move vehicles through, aren't all that important. For routers, the easiest point to take is A point over here. So this is the point that you'll want to try to focus first with your platoon. When attacking, that is, because it's the farthest distance from the SCU. SCU, I mean spawn room. And then, yeah, so that's where you generally want to set up a router if you get one for attacking. Okay, any questions about attacking or defending?
I had a question generally about the amp stations and the tech labs. It seems like a lot of the platoons I'm in, the platoon leaders seem to avoid the tech labs and the amp stations. Is it just because they're like usually a grind fest?
They're usually grind fests if you don't initiate them right. You have to go at it with the mindsets and with the platoon in a cohesive enough manner to be able to capture it quickly and swiftly. I know I just said the two of the same word there, but whatever. But yes, generally, if the platoon leader isn't feeling confident in their ability to capture it, they will avoid it. Any other questions about 3-point amp stations? All right, so single-point amp stations. Well, you will have the spawn room over where A is, generally. That's where the enemy will be coming from. You won't have this center doorway here for enemies to come through. This will be blocked off. The SCU will be posted up inside of what is the spawn room over here. There won't be the lifts in here for going up all the way. You'll have where the grav tubes are here. You can see where they would be, but they're blocked up for this base. But that's where enemies can come out into the SCU room. The SCU generator will be in the center here. It'll get exposed around the halfway mark, like all other large bases, like tech plants. The A points will be up in the middle there. The tactic for taking single point amp stations is to rush Sunderers into this center area, flip the terminals to your control, have the Sunderers set up against the shields so troops can come in and out, and ignore the generators. The generators are your friends for the amp stations, single point amp stations. They provide you cover from enemies shooting in at you from the points with vehicles. They pull vehicles into the tech plant. Amp station, I mean. And will protect your Sunders while they're sitting there, letting the infantry in and out. You'll want to try to post up Sunders around the base like normal, but specific spots where you can see good usage of them is if you could get a Sunder on either side, there and there, because that's outside of the no deploy zone at the closest point, for troops to rush in from either side into this center location. Once the SCU shield is down, troops can also rush in through the rear to be able to get into the main points if you lose your Sunder access on either side. You'll generally want to try to get routers when taking these bases. I like to put them personally underneath these staircases because nobody really generally wants to put the router up there. Otherwise, that's likely to get destroyed. Enemies sometimes tend to group up behind the shield here because they can still have spawn beacons or whatnot on the roof themselves to get into this lift area. And they'll try to push out into there because this shield will stay up as long as the shields to the interior is up, which you generally want to keep up. Defending, you'll want to you'll want to just try to push in through the SCU room. Either that, or the first thing that you'll want to try to do is take out the Sunderers, giving them access into the point. So don't go after the point until you have done that. Once you've cleaned them out, then you can rush upstairs, take out any routers that you see on the way, and push them off the point. It's after you take out that, then it's simple base clearing tactics. Just clean off the rest of the Sunders and all that. It's nothing too advanced for this. Any questions about single point amp station captures or defense?
Can you generally expect like someone in the platoon to like know how to set up a router base or whatever? Because I've not met.
If they have the router sorted out, most likely they've been doing it for a while and know how to.
Okay, I was just thinking, I know like nothing about construction or router bases or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
you don't
I
have
know
to
that
worry
they
about. You don't have to worry about too much other than giving, like, if somebody asks just a simple example. That's why I've been giving you guys example spots of where you'd want a router placed for if anybody doesn't know where they should place a router. Point based. The difference with it is that the enemies spawn in from below, like here, and they come up through the main entrance there. I believe either that or the spawn is at the rear. I can't remember quite exactly, but there's a generator right here. It's a special amp station in that will be a generator right here that will unlock the SCU room. The SCU room will be in the normal spawn point that they'd have over there. And it's one of the easier bases to take because of that. All you have to do is hold the center room and take this generator down. Then you can take out the SCU back there. You can park a Sunder behind the SCU room that's over there, because it's outside the no deploy zone. So you generally hold that very quickly and easily. I will try to take us to the single points if possible. Does not look like it will be. So next, we're going to talk about biolabs and how you never take a platoon to a biolab, ever. So biolabs are something I like to call pop black holes. All they do is take population, suck it into them, and never release it, ever, until the base is captured. After 3 hours of fighting, that is. If you want to take a biolab, and you need to take one, the best course of action is to take the connecting lattices around it and cut it off before entering the biolab itself. That way, enemies will not be able to spawn in. Biolabs are very unique, where even if you take out the SCU, the enemies will still have spawns as long as they have connections to bases next to them. So that's honestly the biggest reason why they're the biggest pain in the ass to take. Alright, and defending, just let blueberries take care of it. Blueberries are known as allies that aren't in your platoon, and just let them take care of it. They will generally not. If they do, well, that's just on the blueberries. Alright, any questions about biolabs?